Every year, as the full moon glowed like a giant lantern in the sky, the small town of Hawaiian transformed into a bustling carnival of color and laughter. Children, their faces painted with glee, raced across the open fields, dragging behind them a motley collection of kites, some elegant, others comically lopsided, all ready to soar into the night. The annual Kite Festival was an event eagerly anticipated by the townsfolk, who believed that these kites served a dual purpose: to celebrate the joy of life and to guide wandering spirits to the afterlife. But for Jiang Wei, a 20-something with a penchant for practicality and a disdain for anything that smelled like superstition, this festival was just an excuse for kids to run amok while he was forced to tag along with his overly enthusiastic younger sister, Jiangli. As they arrived at the park, he couldn't help but roll his eyes at the fervor around him. "Come on, Wei. This is going to be amazing," Jiangli squealed, her ponytail bouncing with each step as she clutched a bright pink kite adorned with glittery stars. "Sure, if your idea of amazing includes watching a bunch of kids make fools of themselves," Wei muttered under his breath, attempting to conceal his grimace behind a facade of indifference. Jiangli, blissfully ignorant of her brother's sarcasm, was already charging towards a group of her friends, leaving Wei to his own devices. He plopped down on a bench, a haphazard arrangement of twinkling lights flickering overhead, and crossed his arms in reluctant resignation. As the festivities began, Wei's attention wandered. The sight of kites lifting off the ground, fluttering like enormous, colorful butterflies, was at least a mild distraction. Laughter and shrieks of delight filled the air, punctuated by the occasional crash of a poorly handled kite. He found himself smirking when a particularly ambitious child sent his kite spiraling into the bushes, eliciting a chorus of giggles from his friends. Maybe some of them will join the spirits tonight, Wei thought, chuckling at his own morbid humor. But then, amidst the vibrant chaos, something unusual caught his eye. A strikingly vivid kite, a deep azure with golden accents, zigzagged erratically through the air, seeming to defy the wind's direction. Unlike the others, this one didn't appear to be tethered to a string. It drifted towards him with an almost sentient grace, weaving through the throng of children before finally plummeting into his backyard. "Now that's interesting," he muttered, curiosity piqued. He stood up, scanning the crowd, but no one seemed to notice the peculiar kite. The kids were too engrossed in their own antics, blissfully unaware of the looming oddity in the moonlit yard. Against his better judgment, Wei wandered over to investigate. As he reached the back gate, the air shifted, suddenly thick with an odd energy. The kite lay sprawled on the grass, fluttering faintly as if alive. Wei hesitated, feeling a tingling sensation creep up his spine. "This is ridiculous," he scoffed, bending down to pick it up. But as he touched the fabric, the kite shuddered violently, and a gust of wind whipped around him, swirling leaves and dust in a chaotic dance. Wei stumbled back, his heart racing. From the kite, a translucent figure began to materialize, a spirit with a mischievous grin and a twinkle in its eye. "Hello there," the spirit chirped, its voice echoing like chimes in a gentle breeze. "I'm Xiang. Care for a bit of fun?" Wei's jaw dropped. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over the flower bed. "What the?" "Relax." Xiang waved a hand dismissively. "I'm not here to haunt you. Just thought I'd drop by and see how you humans celebrate. Heard you've got some pretty neat traditions here." Wei pinched himself to ensure he wasn't dreaming. "I'm dreaming. This isn't happening. I just need to wake up," he mumbled, shaking his head vigorously. Don't be so dramatic. It's just a little spirit fun." Xiang chuckled, floating closer. You see, every full moon, children send kites into the sky to help guide lost souls. But some of us, like yours truly, like to stick around and see what mischief we can stir. Guide lost souls? Wei echoed, his skepticism rising. You mean to tell me that you're here because some kids think kites can send spirits to the afterlife? Precisely. And look at all the fun. Xiang gestured dramatically toward the festival, where laughter and joy reigned. But not all souls are content. Some are, how do I put this, a bit grumpy. Like old Zhang. He's been lingering around, causing all sorts of ruckus. Old Zhang? Wei frowned, the name sending a shiver down his spine. What do you mean by ruckus? Oh, just some harmless fun. Like turning people's shoes into frogs, you know? Classic ghost stuff. Xiang winked, his transparency flickering slightly in the moonlight. Wei sighed, rubbing his temples. And what does that have to do with me? Well, it's a full moon. Old Zhang's been eyeing your house as his next target, Xiang replied, a mischievous grin spreading across his ethereal face. You see, he thinks you're a perfect vessel for his antics. Great, just great, Wei grumbled, backing away from the kite as if it were a rabid animal. I'm not interested in being haunted. I just want a quiet night. Too late for that. Xiang laughed, the sound echoing like a soft melody. The fun is just beginning. You'll want to prepare, because tonight, things are going to get wild. As if on cue, the air thickened again, the hairs on Wei's arms standing on end. He turned, just in time to see a shadowy figure forming at the edge of his yard. It was old Zhang, an old man with a face twisted in annoyance and eyes that glowed like embers. Is that him? Wei whispered, eyes wide with fear. Yep. Good luck. Xiang chimed, disappearing in a flash. Old Zhang let out a low growl, his form becoming more defined as he stepped closer, dark energy swirling around him. You have disturbed my rest, boy, he bellowed, voice echoing ominously. Oh, I'm definitely awake now, Wei replied, panic setting in as he glanced around for a weapon, anything to fend off the looming spirit. Do you think you can just send me away with some silly tricks? Old Zhang scoffed, advancing menacingly. Maybe a broom? Wei suggested, his heart racing. He glanced around, but the only thing he found was a half-empty soda can. Not exactly an effective ghostbuster tool. Old Zhang raised an eyebrow, his expression a mix of disdain and amusement. You dare to challenge me with a soda can? Look, I'm not exactly equipped for this kind of thing. Wei shot back defensively, adrenaline coursing through him. The spirit's laughter boomed, shaking the leaves in the trees. Then I shall enjoy my fun at your expense. Before Wei could react, the air shimmered, and old Zhang flicked his wrist. Suddenly, a cacophony of mischief erupted. Household items began flying around the yard, planters tipped over, garden gnomes danced in circles, and the wind howled with an almost gleeful chaos. Hey! Stop it! Wei shouted, ducking as a plastic flamingo soared past his head. This isn't funny. Oh, but it is. Old Zhang cackled, relishing in the disorder. You will pay for disturbing my slumber. With a sudden burst of clarity, Wei remembered something his grandmother had told him about spirits and kites. If you treat them with kindness, they may just find peace. It was a long shot, but what did he have to lose? Okay. How about this? Wei said, attempting to sound braver than he felt. I'll help you with whatever you need. Just, please, calm down. Old Zhang paused, his fiery gaze narrowing. Help me? What could you possibly do? Wei scrambled for an idea. What if I get you some food? Spirits love food, right? I can make you some dumplings. The spirit's eyes widened, the prospect of food evidently piquing his interest. Dumplings, you say? I haven't had a good dumpling in ages. It's a deal, then. Wei exclaimed, relief washing over him. Just let me go inside, and I'll whip something up. Old Zhang chuckled, his form shimmering with intrigue. You amuse me, boy. Very well, I shall give you a chance. But you have until the moon sets. As the spirit retreated slightly, Wei raced inside, adrenaline still pumping through his veins. In the kitchen, he fumbled through the pantry, tossing ingredients haphazardly onto the counter. Flour, water, a pinch of salt, it was all a blur as he mixed and rolled, hoping that his grandmother's ghostly recipe would be enough to appease the angry spirit waiting outside. After a frenzy of cooking that seemed to last an eternity, Wei finally plated the dumplings, steam wafting through the air. He returned to the yard, heart pounding, and held out the plate as if it were a peace offering. Here. Dumplings, just like Grandma used to make, he proclaimed, hoping his voice didn't betray the sheer panic inside. Old Zhang's eyes gleamed with interest as he floated closer, inspecting the food. You actually made these? Of course. Now, will you calm down? Wei asked, desperation creeping into his tone. The spirit took a dumpling, inspecting it with exaggerated curiosity. If you think these are worthy of my attention, let's see. As old Zhang took a bite, a look of surprise crossed his spectral face. Not bad. A bit too salty for my taste, but that's nothing a little ghostly seasoning can't fix, he said, laughter echoing as he devoured the rest. Wei couldn't believe his luck. So, you're not going to haunt me anymore? Let's not rush things, old Zhang said between mouthfuls, his demeanor lightening. But you have earned my respect. Maybe I'll spare your family, for now. Relief washed over Wei. He could hardly believe it. Who knew that a plate of dumplings could pacify a vengeful spirit? But as he watched old Zhang enjoy the meal, he realized that perhaps there was more to the tales his grandmother had spun than he had ever given credit for. Now, let's talk about this kite situation, Wei said, leaning against the fence. What do we do about all the others? The kids are still out there, old Zhang chuckled, a mischievous glint returning to his eye. Oh, I think we can have some fun with that, too. As the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the yard, Wei realized that the night was far from over. With a ghostly ally by his side, he was about to embark on a ridiculous adventure that would redefine his understanding of tradition, spirits, and perhaps, even his own fears. Listen, old Zhang, Wei said, shifting into a more serious tone. I really don't want to upset the townsfolk. They take this kite festival seriously, you know? And I'd prefer if we didn't make it into a scene. Oh, you humans and your ridiculous fears. Old Zhang scoffed, wiping his mouth with an ethereal hand. What's the fun in that? I've been stuck in the afterlife for far too long. It's time to stir the pot a little. Great. Just great, Wei muttered, feeling a mix of dread and reluctant amusement. So what exactly do you have in mind? Old Zhang's ghostly figure wavered with excitement. Let's give those kids a show they won't forget. We'll make their kites come alive. Alive? You mean like, Wei started, but old Zhang interrupted with a wave of his hand. Exactly. Just imagine. Kites soaring through the air, dancing, doing tricks. The kids will think they're magical. Wei scratched his head, his mind racing. But what if they freak out? You know, ghosts and all that? Ah, who cares? We're spirits. It's our job to be a little terrifying. Besides, it'll make for a great story. They'll talk about it for years. Old Zhang's eyes sparkled with mischief. All right, Wei sighed, feeling the weight of his impending decision. But only if you promise not to scare anyone too badly. And you can't mess with my family. I just had a peaceful moment with my dumplings, and I'd like to keep it that way. Old Zhang chuckled. Fine, fine. No harm to the family. But let's give these kids a night they'll never forget. With a nod of agreement, old Zhang raised his hands, summoning the wind. The atmosphere thickened as the kites began to rattle and stir, the strings vibrating with a life of their own. A chorus of gasps erupted from the festival-goers as they noticed the sudden commotion. Look! The kites, a little girl shouted, pointing at a cluster of kites that were beginning to twist and turn in midair. They didn't just flutter, they twirled, dove, and danced as if each kite had its own personality. Wei watched, wide-eyed, as the children erupted into laughter and cheers, their fears forgotten in the face of this newfound magic. See? Isn't this better? Old Zhang grinned, clearly enjoying himself. What else can you do? Wei asked, a mix of trepidation and curiosity coursing through him. Hold on tight. Old Zhang shouted, and with a flick of his wrist, the kites soared higher, performing acrobatics that would put any circus to shame. They swooped low, zigzagging over the heads of amazed onlookers, creating a spectacle of color and movement against the night sky. Wow! Look at that one, a boy exclaimed, pointing at a kite that had transformed into the shape of a dragon, gliding majestically through the air. Can you believe it? Jiangli shouted, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she grabbed her brother's arm. This is amazing, Wei. Wei could hardly believe it himself. The once mundane kite festival had transformed into an otherworldly celebration, a spectacle of ghostly delight that captivated the entire town. Laughter filled the air, children chasing after the kites as they danced just out of reach, weaving in and out like playful spirits themselves. This is incredible. Wei shouted over the din, his skepticism melting away as he joined in the joy of the moment. He found himself laughing, his fears and worries forgotten as he cheered on the spirited kites, but amidst the laughter and joy, old Zhang's expression shifted slightly. Just remember, Wei, not all spirits are friendly. Some may come looking for trouble. Like who? Wei asked, glancing around nervously, like the spirit of the old fortune teller who once lived here. She's not too happy with how her predictions turned out, old Zhang warned, a mischievous grin returning to his face. Just then, the air grew cold, and a chill swept through the yard. A shadow loomed at the edge of the festival, an ethereal figure with a flowing gown and an aura of foreboding. It was the fortune teller, her presence casting a shadow over the festive atmosphere. Now, that's not good, Wei said, his stomach sinking. What do we do? Jiangli asked, her voice trembling slightly. Old Zhang shrugged. Just keep the show going. Distract her with the kites. Easy for you to say. Wei exclaimed, panic rising again as the fortune teller glided closer. Can't we just send her away? Not so fast. You've disrupted the natural order of things, the fortune teller's voice echoed, a blend of authority and sorrow. I demand to know why my spirit is being toyed with. Because we wanted to have some fun. Old Zhang replied, his tone light and playful, as if they were discussing a casual game rather than confronting a disgruntled spirit. These kites are here to help guide lost souls, and you could use a little joy yourself. The fortune teller's eyes narrowed, assessing the scene before her. Joy? You think this is joy? She snapped. You've ruined the solemnity of the night. Wei stepped forward, emboldened by the absurdity of the situation. But look at the kids. They're having the time of their lives. Isn't that worth something? The fortune-teller's expression softened slightly as she glanced at the joyful scene. The laughter of the children echoed in the air, and for a moment, her stern demeanor faltered. Perhaps, she mused, her voice losing some of its sharpness. But my legacy cannot be forgotten so easily. You cannot simply erase the past. Then how about we honor the past while having fun in the present? Wei suggested, trying to negotiate. What if we let you be part of the show? Old Zhang's eyes twinkled with mischief. Yes. A grand performance. We can feature you as the main act. The fortune teller raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on her face. You think I would want to be part of your childish antics? Why not? We can incorporate some of your fortune-telling skills. It would make the festival unique. Wei exclaimed, his excitement bubbling over. Imagine the stories the kids could tell. For a moment, the fortune-teller hesitated, her gaze drifting back to the children who were now launching a new set of kites, oblivious to the ghostly negotiations unfolding just a few feet away. Perhaps, she said slowly, her voice losing its edge. If you can create a spectacle that honors both the past and the present, I will consider it. Deal. Wei said, unable to contain his excitement. Let's do it. And with that, the night took on a new life. The fortune-teller joined forces with old Zhang, and together they crafted a performance that intertwined traditional fortune-telling with the whimsical antics of the kites. They conjured up tales of the spirits who had wandered through Huayan, using the kites to illustrate each story as they soared overhead. The children watched in awe, captivated by the combination of ghostly storytelling and aerial displays. Laughter filled the air as the spirits wove their tales, and for the first time, the fortune-teller found herself smiling, caught up in the joy of the moment. As the night wore on, the festival became a celebration of both the living and the spirits. It was a night of laughter, stories, and the beautiful chaos that came from honoring the past while embracing the present. Wei realized that this was more than just a festival, it was a bridge between worlds, a way to connect with the spirits who had once been part of their community. As the last kite danced against the backdrop of the moonlit sky, Wei felt a warmth in his heart. He had faced his fears, made peace with the spirits, and learned that sometimes, embracing the unknown could lead to the most extraordinary adventures. Thank you, Wei, the fortune-teller said, her voice softer now. You've reminded me that joy can coexist with the past. Perhaps I'll stick around a bit longer. And I'll make sure you get your dumplings. Wei grinned, the night filled with a newfound sense of camaraderie. As the laughter of children echoed through the town, Wei knew that this was just the beginning. With new friends by his side, both living and spectral, he looked forward to the next kite festival, where adventure, laughter, and perhaps a little mischief would surely await them. And so, under the watchful gaze of the full moon, the town of Huayan continued its age-old traditions, forever transformed by the night when kites flew high, spirits danced in the wind, and laughter reigned supreme. As the festivities wound down and the last of the kites were carefully landed, Wei felt a sense of satisfaction wash over him. The town was buzzing with excitement, and the air was thick with the scent of freshly cooked dumplings wafting from various stalls. The children's laughter still echoed in his ears, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. Can you believe we pulled that off? Wei turned to Zhongli, who was still beaming from ear to ear, her cheeks flushed with delight. I knew it would be amazing. You just had to give it a chance. she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. I suppose there's something to be said for believing in the impossible, Wei replied, feeling a warmth spreading in his chest. And maybe for not judging a festival by its cover. Jiangli chuckled, nudging her brother playfully. You sounded just like a character from one of those cheesy movies. Believe in the impossible. Hey now, I'm serious. Wei shot back, a grin creeping onto his face. We're living proof that kites and spirits can coexist, right? Besides, who knew that you could settle disputes with dumplings? Just then, old Zhang floated over, his spirit glowing brighter with joy. You two did splendidly. I haven't had this much fun in centuries. The children will remember this night for the rest of their lives. Glad to hear it. But can we go back to the part where you promised not to scare anyone? Wei asked, his brow arching in mock seriousness. But that was the fun part. Old Zhang laughed, his voice like a gentle breeze. What's a little scare among friends? Next time, let's keep the scares to a minimum, Wei said, shaking his head but unable to suppress a smile. And you, Miss Fortune Teller, he added, turning to the spirit who had joined their little gathering, you were spectacular up there. Thank you, young man, she replied, her expression softer now, a hint of warmth creeping into her ghostly demeanor. You have a gift for bringing people, and spirits, together. I must admit, it was refreshing to see the joy that can arise from a little chaos. Wei shrugged, feeling a bit shy under her praise. It was all part of the plan, I guess. Just trying to keep everyone happy, living or otherwise. And that's the key, isn't it? Old Zhang chimed in, his eyes twinkling. To find joy even in the most unexpected places. Who would have thought a simple kite festival could turn into such a spectacle? As they stood in the glow of the festival lights, a few children ran up, faces flushed and eyes wide. Can we have more kite tricks tomorrow? One boy asked breathlessly. That was the best ever. Of course. Every full moon, right? Wei replied, his heart swelling with pride. Can you make our kites come alive again? Another girl chimed in, her excitement infectious. Old Zhang exchanged glances with Wei, a sly smile spreading across his face. Well, perhaps we can arrange a little more magic for next time, yes, he declared. But remember, magic comes with responsibility. We wouldn't want it to go to anyone's head. The children nodded, and with a mixture of giggles and squeals, they scampered off, chattering excitedly about the night's adventures. Wei watched them go, feeling a sense of fulfillment he hadn't anticipated. Tonight was special, Jiangli said softly, her expression thoughtful. You really brought everyone together, Wei. Thanks, Li, he replied, a touch of emotion in his voice. I didn't realize how much we needed this kind of night. As the moon hung high above them, a soft glow casting a silver sheen over the park, Wei felt a sense of connection not just with his sister and the spirits but with the community around him. This festival, once a mere annoyance, had transformed into a cherished memory, one that would carry them through the quiet days ahead. Hours passed, and the last of the festival-goers began to drift home. The laughter gradually faded into the distance, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft hoots of an owl nearby. Wei, Jiangli, Old Zhang, and the fortune teller lingered for a moment, basking in the aftermath of the night's joy. Perhaps we should go too, the fortune teller suggested, her ethereal form flickering slightly as she glanced at the dwindling lights. The night is still young, but my spirit grows weary. Agreed, Old Zhang nodded. But I must say, this was an unexpected delight. You humans have a knack for turning the mundane into the extraordinary. Next time, maybe we'll add a little more mischief, Zhongli piped up, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Old Zhang laughed, his form shimmering with mirth. Now you're talking. Mischief is the soul of fun. Wei smirked, shaking his head at his sister and the playful spirits. Let's keep the mischief contained to the kite festival, shall we? I'd like to avoid any more surprises in my backyard. As they made their way through the park, a light breeze picked up, swirling around them and carrying the last echoes of laughter into the night. You know, Wei mused, this could become a new tradition for us. Not just the kite festival, but bringing spirits and people together. Definitely. Imagine the stories we could create. Zhongli exclaimed, her excitement palpable. Old Zhang nodded in agreement, a sense of pride swelling in him. You've got the spirit of a true leader, boy. Embrace it. Just remember to keep the spirits happy, Wei replied with a playful wink, knowing that the next kite festival would likely bring its own share of adventures. As they reached the edge of the park, the fortune teller paused, looking back at the twinkling lights one last time. Thank you for reminding me of the joy that can still be found in the world. I've been so caught up in my past that I almost forgot how to enjoy the present. Anytime, Wei said earnestly. Just remember, joy can be a little bit scary sometimes, but that's what makes it exciting. The fortune teller smiled, a genuine warmth shining in her eyes. I will carry that thought with me. Thank you, Wei. With that, the spirits began to fade back into the night, their forms dissolving into shimmering particles of light that danced away like fireflies. Wei felt a twinge of sadness at their departure, but he knew this was not goodbye. They would return, and so would the kites, and with them, the joy and laughter of the festival. As he and Zhongli walked home under the blanket of stars, Wei couldn't help but replay the night's events in his mind. He felt lighter, almost as if the weight of his skepticism had been lifted. The world was filled with magic and mystery, and for once, he was willing to embrace it. Next time, can I help make the dumplings? Zhongli asked, a hopeful grin spreading across her face. Sure, Wei laughed, as long as you don't put too much salt in them this time. Deal, she chirped, her voice brimming with excitement. They walked in companionable silence for a while, the only sounds being the soft crunch of leaves beneath their feet and the distant sound of a lone owl hooting. The moon illuminated their path, guiding them home as it had guided the spirits that night. When they finally reached their house, Wei felt a rush of gratitude wash over him. The night had not only brought him closer to his sister but had also deepened his understanding of the world around him. He unlocked the door and stepped inside, the familiar warmth enveloping him like a hug. As they settled in for the night, Wei couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. The kite festival had changed everything, opening doors to new friendships and a deeper appreciation for the traditions that had long been a part of their lives. Do you think we'll see Xiang again? Zhongli asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. Absolutely, Wei replied, a smile tugging at his lips. I think he's just getting started. And as they prepared for bed, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. Whatever the future held, more kite festivals, more spirits, more adventures, he was ready to face it all with an open heart and an adventurous spirit. The full moon shone brightly outside, illuminating their home, and for the first time in a long while, Wei felt truly content. He drifted off to sleep with dreams of kites and laughter swirling through his mind, knowing that the magic of the night would carry on, one festival at a time. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, the world began to wake up once more. But in the town of Huayan, beneath the surface of everyday life, the whispers of spirits lingered, waiting for the next full moon, ready to weave their stories into the fabric of the living. And with that, the tale of the Kite Festival continued, a story of laughter, connection, and the beautiful intertwining of two worlds, forever cherished in the hearts of those who believed.